Step into a world where ancient wisdom meets modern mysticism. Introducing the Gnostic Tarot, a powerful fusion of esoteric art and Gnostic themes designed for those who seek the ultimate gnosis. This mesmerizing deck, rich in symbolism, draws from the profound teachings of Gnosticism, serving as an ideal companion for meditation, reflection, and the exploration of spiritual realms. Whether you are a seasoned tarot enthusiast or new to the practice, the Gnostic Tarot caters to all, offering a portal to ancient wisdom and a tool for uncovering the hidden truths in your mystical journey. Unveil the mysteries, embrace the wisdom. The Gnostic Tarot is a timeless companion for your spiritual odyssey. Take a journey with Gnostic luminaries and learn their stories in a visually stunning manner. From Sophia to the Gnostic Christ, their journey is your self-discovery. Choose from the basic deck or the deluxe version, which includes a beautifully crafted journey book and a magnetic storage box, ensuring that your Gnostic Tarot remains a treasured companion on your spiritual quest. The Gnostic Tarot is an original and collaborative effort between Miguel Connor of Aeon Byte Gnostic Radio and Matthew Schmitz of Altrusian Grace Media. Visit our website to embark on your journey today. Syncrasis Publishing, where ancient wisdom and modern mysticism converge. Heresy shouldn't be this much fun, but it is. It just is, especially when you arrive to Aeon Byte at the virtual Alexandria. You got your Gnostic Tarot with you, and you're ready to go on an amazing adventure, which always leads to you, to your authentic self. My name is Miguel Connor, and I am your Pompatus of Gnosis. I hope everyone is writing their own gospel and living their own myth. We run with those searching for the truth and avoid those who have found it. And I'm very excited today, as our guest is the Reverend Alyson Dunlop Shanes. I was recently in her podcast and we had a blast last week. So now she is in my house and I'm very excited to have her to discuss her book, Mystic Visions and Other Blasphemies. Alyson, thanks for coming on the show.
It's a delight to be here. Thank you for asking me.
Pleasure is all ours. And with us too, we got Graham Pong. Graham, how are you doing today on St. Joseph's Day?
Yes, indeed. Patron saint of Germany. No, I am doing pretty well. I'm here to hear if my childhood instinct was correct, that aliens and angels is sort of like potato. Okay.
There you go. I think yes, and much more. Because yes, Alyson, I was thinking today, man, we talked about Elvis and what a magical life he led, and I'm saying, oh my God, so did you. He sold a bit more records than you did, but when it comes to the mystical, you're right up there, right?
Yeah. Well, maybe one day I'll sell a record. I can visualize, a female Catholic priest getting up there and recording a record.
There
and
you go.
A smash hit.
Yeah, it'll be the next Gangnam Style or Macarena. It'll sell a billion.
Oh, well.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, I see people in the chat. Good to see Sunshine Valerie, H.P. Lovecraft, Mindhack. How are you doing today on this Mercury Day? Again, if you have any questions, please super chat them or remarks. Always smart gnosis going on in the chat. This is a open for all stream, but there will be some behind the paywall. Like tomorrow, we'll have Saul Luckman, and he will be discussing his brand new book coming out on the spring solstice. So please subscribe, or if you can, support Aeon Byte in any way you can. Share, like, and all that good stuff. Some housekeeping and very exciting news coming later in the show. But we should get to the main event. I usually ask the guests, Alyson, tell us about yourself, but your book is about yourself and just an amazing journey with incredible insights. But so I wanted to start about you and the clergy. And if anything, it gives me an excuse to give a shout out to the amazing David Perry, who is just Love the guy, and he loves Elvis, so it's all good, right?
It's all good. And he knew Christopher Lee, so he was another hero of mine.
Yes, yes. So how did you enter the clergy? And tell us about that. Why don't we start with that?
Oh, that was a long and winding road. As I think my entire life has been a long and winding road.
Yeah.
And the path less travelled. It was really it came about really by meeting David. I asked him to do an interview for ADX Files. We got talking. I told him like my kind of beliefs and what I seemed to be guided to do with my life, and it all kind of went from there. I became a deacon with the Valentinian Church that David ran, and then later on I was ordained. Just last year, I was ordained by the Old Catholic Apostolic Church, the OCAC, and David's also one of the priests there too. Actually, he's the Monsignor, I think. And so that was kind of how it got me started. But I mean, that's not the whole story. And a lot of my story I've actually not told, because you don't know how people are going to react to what you say.
Oh yeah.
You know, but for many years I was pagan, and I still have that part of me that sees the divinity in nature. But I was always a pagan who only believed in one God, which is not. It happens, but it's a bit unusual for a pagan to believe in one God. But my belief was that all these different energies were all part of the one source, and that ultimately so were we, part of that one source. And over the years, these powers or energies or these beings had made themselves known to me. The angels, I talk about them in my book, they had made themselves known to me. I started feeling a connection with Mary, the mother of Jesus. And so I had these experiences, like as I say, the angels are mentioned in the book. Mary is not, but and you wouldn't say that this was a paranormal or supernatural thing, but I had a very serious illness back in 2010, and it just so happened to be in Paris, and I was in Notre Dame, and I went in and I wasn't Christian at the time, but I went in just looking for something, because it was worrying. It was worrying that this illness is an antibiotic resistant infection, superbug, if you like. It was very difficult to get rid of, and we were like 3 months into it, and I wasn't too well and wasn't sure of the future. But anyway, I went into the Notre Dame, and I had gone all around it, and the final picture at the end was Mary. And this picture it was almost like it came out at me, the look of sympathy on Our Lady's face and in her eyes. I've got the shivers talking about it. I just started crying, and I didn't want anybody to see me, so I just sat down and listened to the choir, who were singing French, and I don't understand French, but it was beautiful anyway. It was really nice. and I've left feeling, I don't know, just something. I couldn't put my finger on it, but over time I had other experiences, and then I just ultimately, you know, I had a wee word with Jesus one night, and I said, "Wait, look, I understand angels now. You know, I had experiences with them. I've had the experience with Mary and been drawn to Mary, and also like doing novenas and things like that. That Catholic friends had said, why don't you try that? And so I did, and these novenas seemed to work. And so I had that connection there, but I could not, as a pagan, grasp Jesus. You know, I couldn't grasp the Christianity and the idea of it, and just wasn't getting it. And I was watching Jesus of Nazareth, and by the end of it, it actually just jumped out at me, and it was almost like I was being given a message that Jesus was a solar deity. He had elements of a solar deity. And I'm not saying that that's all. I'm not saying that Christ didn't die on the cross. I'm not saying that, you know, a lot of the stuff didn't happen. A lot of it, I think, is symbolism. But it just all made sense. And I looked at things like Christmas carols, and it was all about the returning light. Light coming into the world, and these are things that I knew from being pagan that, you know, were celebrated on Christmas Day, on the 25th of December, when people could see that the sun was turning back in its course. And so it just suddenly fell into place that, yes, I mean, the Catholic Church wouldn't be too happy with me saying stuff like this. And I know that initially people did actually turn to the sun and worship it as Jesus. At some point they did that. I read this. At some point they did it, and the church were really like, "No, you can't do that. That's not what this is all about. You've got to do it this way." Luckily, in the OCAC, it's not a case of you have to do it anyway. You have to, like, you know, it's very much you find your own path to God, but still as a Christian, you know. So, as I say, I had to bring those two things together, because Christianity would not have it wouldn't have got me as much as it did when I brought the pagan beliefs into it, because your beliefs from before and your knowledge from before, it's not just going to go away, you know, it's just not just going to disappear. So but there were other things too, like having a calling to be an exorcist was one of the main things, and this was something that came up time and time again, until eventually I actually had to do an exorcism in my own flat, and it was very successful. Somebody had visited and they had left something there, and I was aware after they had gone, and I had a creepy feeling about the guy when he came in, but I was aware after he had gone that I wasn't alone, and I didn't feel like that flat was never like that, and I had never really felt that way, and I didn't like this sensation and this feeling in the house. That night there were sounds of things being dropped. I looked and couldn't find anything. And the next day when I opened the curtains and I went to walk away, I just heard this. But it was louder than that. I don't want to make it too loud, but it was like somebody had thumped their hand down on a book.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, the kitchen flooded. So I just said, right, I know that you're there. And this is my home. And you can't come in. And you cannot attach yourself to me because I won't let you. You've picked the wrong person. And I'm going to make sure that you leave. And I'm going to tell you now that I want you to leave. 2 weeks went by. And then I would hear scrapes on the walls. The shelves would shake. The bookshelves would shake. The bed would shake. And it just got kind of scary. And again, I said, I want you to go away. Another 2 weeks. And then I was attacked by an invisible force one night.
Mm-hmm.
And it had me by the wrists, and I managed to fight it off and tell it where to go. And after that, I thought, I'm doing an exorcism. This has gone on long enough. Given them several chances to go, and I'm going to do an exorcism now. So I had just been baptized by David.
Mm-hmm.
And as a present, I'd asked, my mum had given me some money to get something that I wanted, and what I bought was the Roman ritual, the Catholic exorcism ritual. In fact, I've got it right here. I'll show you.
Sure.
It's a really beautiful. That's maybe back to front actually, but it's a really beautiful book, and it's got like all this sort of like red writing and stuff like that, and it's got it in Latin and it's got it in English. Not that I know Latin yet. I occasionally I go back to it and have a go, but I don't really. So I did the asking the saints to come in. You go through all these the litany of saints, a huge list, and I went through it all, and I asked, Mary and Jesus and all the angels and God just to come in and help this situation. And I got holy oil, I got holy water. The whole place was totally cleansed. I used, as I say, holy water, salt, candle, and incense, the 4 elements. And from being pagan, that's the kind of thing that you would do to create a protective space.
Right.
So I went round, with this, and I also put black salt at the door to keep anything bad away. And then that was that. And I think it was the next night that I was sitting at my laptop on the settee, and the noise of literally millions, trillions of hailstones on glass, that kind of sound, static on the ceiling. I couldn't see anything. My cats were like this. I asked the woman upstairs. She had no idea what I was talking about, but she experienced strange things too. And so, she didn't look at me too weirdly, but yeah, it was okay to ask her. She's probably about my age or a bit younger, and she was okay with me asking about that. And I then read what is it? It's a book called Begone Satan, And I read that after this happened, and everything that happened to that priest happened to me during the exorcism that he was doing. The sounds and the scratchings, the attack by the invisible spirit, and ultimately the sound of hailstones on the ceiling.
Oh, wow.
Which it told me that indicated the end of the exorcism. And it was this energy dissipating and leaving. And honestly, the whole atmosphere of the flat lifted. It just lifted. It was lighter. It was brighter. My mother came in and commented on it. She's like, "What's happened in here?" And I didn't tell her. I didn't tell her then, but she commented on it. What has happened? Have you done something? You changed something? Because it's like really bright and it feels really nice in here. You know, and I thought, I'm not going to say, I told her later, but I thought, I'm not going to say just yet. So these sort of things, that made me think, wow, I just actually did a successful exorcism. And then I looked back along my life and saw that maybe that's where I've been guided to all along.
Yeah.
You know, I think sometimes that happens. You look back at your life and you think, how did I not see all that?
Yeah, the invisible hand.
Yeah, it
So
was
obvious.
pointing in one direction, you know.
We need it more than ever, because I get requests all the time, Alyson, beings, more and more. Maybe it's mental disorder, whatever. It still works. And usually I say, well, Psalm 13 has a lot of power, or this from the Nag Hammadi. I'm just not an expert. And I think you're right. More than ever, they are invading us. And of course, you talk about in your book, you were ready for that. You know, you grew up with a family that was interested in the spiritualism. Your trauma as a child from your disease opened up these channels. You were doing it all the time. You talk in one section about doing the Ouija board and this summoning this demon called Quabala, who's like Satan is angry. So it's almost like, God might as well put signs and said, you know, this is where you're going, Alyson.
Yeah.
But the question for probably what the audience wants to know, well, there's twofold question is, who are the demons? And then we can work on how they can help themselves if they don't have an exorcist around. But who are the demons, you would say?
Who are the demons? Because it depends on your mythology. It depends on your religion, really, what you believe the demons to be. I mean, as a Gnostic, you would possibly have a different take on the Christian idea of what a demon is. You know, not that my belief is that demons come from hell, or perhaps that's just a convenient name. You know, I guess like my idea is that obviously we know that they are dark beings. I don't think they've ever been human. I think they probably reside in a place that's very dark and bare and has nothing. So they want to invade our world and you know, do things through us, and sometimes make people do things, like some really bad things like murder. And until they're finished with you and they've got your soul, and that's ultimately they have taken you away from God. So these beings, basically, if you imagine that God is good, not everybody will believe that, but if you imagine that God is good and that these demons want to get you as far away from good as possible. But sometimes when you're trying to help somebody, it doesn't matter what you say. They just still refuse to break that connection that they have. That thing that is holding that demon to them, because that demon will be attracted to certain elements in their personality. And unless they let those elements go, like I knew one person who was still hanging on to a relationship from 6 years before. And she also had a traumatic childhood, and there was lots of things that were thrown in there. But she couldn't let go of this relationship. And if only she had managed to do that and not hate. It's the hate that we put out, the negative energies that we put out. That is what draws them to us. And so you have to find a way of bringing yourself back to the good, bringing yourself back to the happy, and the giving and the joyful and whatever. So what are they? I mean, other people would say, well, they're fallen angels. That's what the mythology tells us. They're fallen angels. But that's how I see it anyway. I'd see them as residing in a dark place, and maybe they are kind of fallen angels, and that they're so far removed from God that, you know, they just have nothing. They literally have nothing, and they want you to have nothing too.
Yeah, or they're hungry. I mean, I try not to use too much morality, whether you call them archons or mind parasites, ultra terrestrials. You talk about the jinn, the smokeless fire beings, who could be plasmatic beings. It doesn't matter, is that they are there and they're here to feed upon us, and maybe it's their nature. They're here to feed and destroy. It's like blaming the coyotes or the lion for doing what it's doing. In the cosmic world, these beings are doing their thing, and we are very valuable for them, whether it's food or control, or we humans have a special place in their menu, if you would, right?
Yeah, their spiritual menu. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, yeah, that's fair enough. Yeah. Take on board gin and all that as well.
Yeah, and what would you say? Because again, I get people messaging me, and they feel they've been possessed. Of course, I say, there's first you got to identify. Get yourself in a good spiritual practice, meditate, talk to a therapist, talk to a priest or a mullah or somebody who has wisdom and spiritual insight. And like I said, I say recite the Psalm 13 many times, recite the goddess prayer in the secret book of John. And of course, what your mythology, like you said, your mythology matters because it's charged by centuries of magic and people faith. So
absolutely. And if somebody comes to me, then I'm going to assume that they've come to me because they believe that what I do and who I do on behalf of, i.e. Jesus, is something that they believe in too. But that's not always the case. Sometimes they think you'll just do all the work and they'll just sit and, do nothing. But I ask people two things really. One is that I organise a thing called Glasgow Pilgrims, and we go around all the churches in Glasgow. Well, not all of them, but we go around churches in Glasgow to the, like, Sunday Mass or a Sunday service at the Protestant church. Doesn't really matter where you go. And so we do that. And it feels a little strange being an old Catholic priest and not being able to go for communion. That feels a little bit strange. I'm sure if the rules were changed, some priests that I've spoken to would do that. But anyway, and it's an important thing. It is an important thing. I asked them to come to church with me, and I know that that's something that the Roman Catholic Church does as well. I think somebody I know, they asked her to go to church regularly, like 13 weeks. For some reason, it was 13 weeks. So I asked people to come along with me if they're experiencing things. I asked them to say the the Saint Michael prayer, the Archangel prayer. That's a really good one. And I asked them to just try to break ties with anything that's negative in their life, really. I also asked them now for a doctor's letter and explain to them that I want to be on board with their doctor with this, because that was a mistake that I've made in the past, not to do that, or actually what it was to believe that what you're getting told is going to be the truth. So if you say, have you been to your doctor? Yes. And I'm so naive. I believe that, you know. But now I it's not always the case. So I ask for a doctor's letter. I want to know that even if something is underlying, whether it's mental illness, whether it's neurological, whether maybe they have a brain tumor for all I know, and they're seeing things and they're asking me to do an exorcism. My exorcism is not going to take away that brain tumor.
Right.
You know, and they're going to continue having the experience that they're having. And then it's going to be, though, the exorcism didn't work. So I really, it's a case of, you know, dotting the I's and crossing the T's and just saying, like, I am willing to do an exorcism if I feel it's necessary, but I want these things first. I want you to be in touch with your doctor, and I want you to be attending church. Because it doesn't really matter what church or what religion, as you said, but it's to create that spiritual feeling to connect you with God. And God is in every religion, you know. That element of goodness is in every religion. So I think it's important that people connect with it.
For sure. No, and well said. And thanks for that. Let me bring in Graham. Graham, what do you think? And do you have a question for Alyson on the topic?
Oh, I'm very much following along. What she's coming across is, my thoughts are, her journey pattern, so, follows my own quite a bit, where I had to go back from who is Jesus to what is Jesus and try to answer that one first. And you have situations where you're in the sort of like a liminal situation where it's like Bridget, is she pagan goddess, Christian saint? I let people make their own call. What do you think, Alyson? Hey.
Well, I guess some of us, when we're saying things in prayer, we'll talk in the OCAC. I mean, we'll talk about Mother, Father, God, because God doesn't have like one gender, so in Orthodox Christianity, it's very much a patriarchal religion, patriarchal God and hierarchy, and it's got a lot to answer for, this patriarchy, because initially women were ordained in the Catholic Church, and that was phased out by sexist misogynists. I don't know if I answered your question there, actually.
No worries. Well, let's
kind of gone.
No worries at all. Well, let's pivot towards your life, well, again, but to another aspect, which has been very busy, and it overlaps, and Graham mentioned it at the beginning, and that's UFOs. You've also had quite a few UFO experiences. Tell the audience about that.
I have. I was running a group called SPI Scotland, and would take them out to sky watches, and we were at the Carron Valley Reservoir, and we had seen a few things, but we kind of thought, oh, that's probably going to be a helicopter in the distance or whatever. But there was this one that we're thinking, that is a really bright star. I've never seen a star as bright as that. And it's orange, but there's no way that's Mars. And it just sat there for ages, but we assumed it was a star. But it was weird. We didn't have a star map or anything like that, or app on our phone or whatever. And we were just about to leave when the star started to move, and it circled well, it didn't circle it completely, but it went round the reservoir at the top end, and then it went up and over the hills in front of us, and we're just like, that was not a star, and it was far closer than we'd thought. And when I looked through binoculars, it wasn't the same. It was like a flickering beacon almost, and you couldn't see the orange either. We videoed it and somebody took a picture of it, and it was the same. It was just like this tiny little sort of white thing, and there was no orange. Where did that orange come from? It was sparkling orange. You could take your binoculars away, and there it was, sparkling orange. I spoke to Kevin Goodman down in Warminster, and he said it sounded like the amber gamblers that they have down in Warminster. So they get them down there as well. And what else? I saw there was a sort of a silver egg shaped.
Yeah, you talk about that one, yeah.
Yeah, it was like a kind of silver egg shaped.
The Glasgow University Union.
It went. I was walking down University Avenue, and it just went over the University Union and out of sight. And I would have been really heartbroken if I'd not got that picture. But luckily, I did get that because I was, sort of fumbling with my phone. I'd been listening to music on it. And I was trying to fumble with my phone and get it onto the camera and take this picture, and I just got it and no more. But I also felt kind of strange all the time it was happening. It was that somebody said to me, "Did everything go quiet?" And I thought, yeah, I think it did. I think it, was I the only person on the street? Well, I don't remember seeing anyone around. I did feel it was quite quiet when that happened. When I looked at the photo, actually, there's a bus just in front of me. At the end of the road, there's a bus. I was kind of unaware of that, I think. But the weird thing was, I went home and I didn't immediately post it up on SPI Scotland. It was there for about a week to a fortnight before I came across it on my phone and thought, why did I not post that up? Now, that's another thing that's not unusual.
Is it really?
It's like after an experience, it's like it's just put to the back of your mind. Even although you've got this extraordinary photo with a UFO on it, But I was able to say that, and look at the weather, and there wasn't like any wind. It was moving quite fast. It looked a bit like a blimp, and some people have thought that maybe that is what it is, or was. I don't know. I don't know. So it remains a UFO because I can't say what it was.
And we talked about this last week too with Elvis. I think we have the same phenomenon. Vernon, when Elvis was born, going out and sound stopped and the blue light over his house, and he walked into the house and just like forgot about it for like 20 years until he told his son about it. And then Elvis in his Bel Air home also, remember, he's with his bodyguard Sonny West, and suddenly everything just goes blank and the lights flood the place. So there must be a warp of time, or of course our minds immediately are taken over. I don't know, but
yeah, I don't know. I don't know either, but I'd forgotten about that. Yeah.
And for the audience, Alyson, of course, when she's talking about demons in her book, she does give a history of demons from, the term daemon and all that, the different possibilities, and very interesting. Same with UFOs. You quote several, the leading minds, like I think you quote a Michael Lautz theory that UFOs might be the morphing plasma of jinn. He postulates that some UFOs are the morphing plasma of jinn. From my own story, I'm sure they will agree that there is a case to made for that. So that is a possibility. Again, connecting them to these other entities out there.
Yeah. It's just exactly what you said as well. You mentioned jinn as well. I think there's a case to be made for that. I don't know a huge amount about jinn, but all these beings, we talk about them as being like angelic beings as well. Been made of fire or been made of plasma. And talking about plasma, that was another. I think that this is probably one of the most profound things that has happened. And it happened round about the same time that I had my Incubus experience.
I was just about to ask you for that. Tell the audience about that.
Okay, so I woke up and I'd had a bad dream, and I was aware when I woke up that the room, although it was exactly the same, it was this weird sort of bluish tinge to it. And I tried to wake up my partner and I couldn't, which is a feature of Incubus attacks, that the partner, you can't wake them up. Mm-hmm. And then I was flipped onto my back. There was this demonic being on top of me, male being. Mm-hmm. And he said, "You thought you could get away from me, didn't you?" He started scraping this long fingernail at my neck. So with Incubus, a lot of people only think of them as being sexual motivation, but they also can have murderous intent, and that, I think, was the case here. Mm-hmm. It was definitely more murderous than anything else. And 14 years later, I met someone who told me about their UFO experience, and they showed me a sort of photoshopped photo of where this UFO was. It was right above my flat.
Oh, wow. Yes.
And it was within the same month, because I didn't know the date that happened to me, but it was within the same month. It was December coming up to the millennium, December 1999. And that, he said, that UFO, which he described as a plasma, with a bluish tinge. And remember, I was saying that there was this bluishness in my home, this bluish tinge, and this plasma just imploded and was gone. He didn't know what to make of that. I don't know what to make of it, really. Was it a portal? Did it have anything to do with Jin, you were talking about this plasma connection. I mean, I don't know. I don't know.
No.
But that really, when I saw that picture, I think my blood ran cold because I thought, I've always assumed that this was demonic, and maybe it still was, because a lot of people now are associating UFOs with the demonic rather than aliens. I mean, there's so much that we don't know, that we don't have answers to, and I'm very reluctant to say that such and such is a definite thing. I'd rather look at it from the academic point of view. There you're getting all these different sides, and so might say such and so has said such and such. All these very learned people, and throwing in my experience and what I might think. But I've been to too many, lectures where they talk about things as though they know the answer, and that it's a fact, and it's not a fact. So I try to be careful with how I say that, but that was an astounding thing, that to find that out, to just think, oh, maybe I just have some kind of sleep disorder,
I don't know about that. And yes, my book on Elvis talks about, again, the blue light and how blue was part of his life and when he was doing magic and all that. And then I have a chapter on all these UFO phenomenon. Yeah, the blue color is always there. And you start seeing it throughout history, even in the whenever the Black Plague was in Europe, people were recording this blue smoke going on top of the villages, of the houses of people that had died. People were wondering, was this a demon attack, an alien attack? Was it really a virus? Anyway, all we have is dots to connect, Alyson, but there's a lot of dots. So we just got to keep on connecting them.
Yeah, absolutely. That's amazing about the blue. I didn't know that but that's my cat. I'm so sorry. He sounds like a werewolf. He has food. There's nothing wrong with him.
No, they just like to be heard.
And then when the door's closed and they can't get to their mummy,
How dare you? You're like the goddess who's in another dimension, and they're like, "Where art thou? Where art thou?"
Oh, such a great feeling.
Yeah, and it's also interesting because you also write, I think one of your issues is people in UFO or the occult community will believe in all this thing, but they still don't want to look at the idea of these negative evil, right? They still want to think everything is, as David Bowie said, hunky-dory.
Yeah, they prefer to just focus on our space brothers than think that there's anything.
The benign confederation of Starseed or something.
Yeah. And I'm not saying anything against what you believe, but there's more out there than just that. What really annoys me actually is people who will believe in aliens, but they poo-hoo demons. Because I don't get that. I don't get that. How can you believe in one thing, but that's it? That's where the line is drawn.
Yeah, I think it's because with aliens, they still want to put them in a materialist, reductive universe. But it doesn't make sense because the closest planet is what, 5 million whatever light years away. So it's or whatever. I mean, normal technology is not going to get us to visit a planet or aliens to visit us. So there is something hyper-dimensional, something beyond. I don't want to call it supernatural, but that's beyond the human mind or science to understand.
Well, there is, and I've had that contact. I mentioned that in the book. I've had that contact where they told me, and there was several of them, and it was this circle in the ceiling in my bedroom that was connected to my forehead, and it just kind of beamed into this circle, and they told me, you have to tell people about us. You must promise us that you'll tell people about us. And I was just terrified, elated, all these different emotions. And of course I'm saying, like, I promise. And I was actually being lifted off the pillow. I could feel my head. And it was the werewolf that woke me up. With that. He probably knows we're talking about this. But I've never seen him in such a state though, as I saw him then, and that's what woke me up, and I actually felt myself bounce back onto the pillow. But I think that was a telepathic communication, and I mean, what could I say? It wasn't unpleasant. It came into that category of our healing space brothers type. That's how I felt about it. I wasn't quite sure. Were they gods? Were they aliens? Were they angels? What were they? Because they had that element of all those things that you might feel and experience. So I appreciate that there are experiences like that where everything's hunky-dory. But people have other very, very bad experiences with beings who they report are in the flesh. They're actually, they can touch them, what I wonder is if something has been sent out through the universe, say like viral or bacterial, or even like spores, like you get mushroom spores floating about, and has that come into the environment and somehow started to create something physical, something that's actually alien, but and not from this planet, but it's here, and it's maybe traveled for a long, long time without needing any food or drink or anything, because it wasn't in its full form. I'm totally out in la la land now, but
No, that's a topic we will explore next month. The idea, we've been talking about plasma, but also the underrated power of fungi. What a supreme being they are. They control the weather, and if they decide to start controlling our minds, perhaps they are. The ancients thought so. So I think you might be onto something, and nobody wants to look at the fungi.
Yeah.
Or the Spanish Inquisition.
Well, I had one of those recently from somebody who couldn't understand female priests. But anyway,
oh god.
And it was a woman as well. Anyway,
meow.
I did a talk on hallucinogenics in religion, entheogens and things like that, and I came across a lot of information that suggested that in early Christianity mushroom taking of the you know, the like red with the white dots. What's it called?
Oh, I can't even pronounce it.
Muscaria.
Yeah, Graham, can you pronounce it?
No.
Yeah, I guess Graham can.
No. I was going to say this one's above my pay grade. I'm sorry.
Yeah. We need Terrence McKenna. We need a Terrence McKenna audio or something like that.
Yeah. Oh, he was fantastic. I love Terrence McKenna. But yeah, it seemed to suggest, and through art as well, you can see it in art, mushrooms in these religious paintings.
Oh, here it is. Yeah, Amanita Muscaria. Yes, thank you for that, McAwesome.
Thank you. Thank you, McAwesome.
You are McAwesome.
Yes. So my talks, that talk goes back to suggesting that this idea, it doesn't kind of, I don't think I explicitly say this, but it is suggested that these spores that came down from God during thunderstorms and lightning storms suddenly created this fruit, because it's the fruit of the I'm forgetting my words today.
The
The
archons
stuff
are
underneath the ground, okay? It connects all the, you know, it can actually connect.
The fungi for miles.
And it can connect, it can give information from one tree to another tree. That's mind-blowing. That is absolutely mind-blowing. It can do all these things, and it can also impart spiritual information to us. I'm not saying, please do not get me wrong, please do not go out right now and pick amanitas and start munching them down. That would be crazy. If you're going to do anything like that, do it with somebody who knows what they're doing. But I'm not advocating it. I'm just saying that I think it was quite probable that this belief was that God had put this on the earth to enlighten us and give us freedom from death, to take away our fear of death. That's what we think of Jesus. So how can you not connect those two things? Especially when it's going back to early Christianity. I definitely think there's more to be found there with that idea. I don't know if I'm the person to do it, but
I think we're heading that way. I think that's where the collective unconscious is going, and it'll be the revenge of John Allegro. But feel like we're on a wonderful yellow brick road. Mushrooms and demons, and angel and UFOs. Oh my!
John Allegro had a bad time of it. He had some fabulous insights. He was a language expert. So of all the people to know what certain words in the Bible meant, he would be your guy. And he pointed to certain words that was the name for mushrooms, or something to do with that kind of mushroom mythology. You know, a lot of people disagreed with him, and he lost his job over it, I think. He lost his, career. He went through a bad time anyway. But I think, he could actually have been onto something.
Yeah. Sometimes these things just need to be revisited and see, perhaps we got some things right, or we need to get farther. Obviously, the church had an agenda, because they thought the Dead Sea Scrolls would prove the historical or the Orthodox Jesus, and it didn't. But yeah, I think at least, at the very least, the power of fungi and how they might be more conscious and, like you said, more important to avenues to these other dimensions, dimensions and so forth. It might be very important to visit them, and hopefully it's not like a Lovecraft novel where these are demon fungi in the end, or something.
Yeah.
Fungi of Sogoth or something like that. So
Yeah.
and
Some of
yeah,
them are. I mean,
yeah,
there's lots of mushroom mythology, and they've all got like different names. These mushrooms that ones that are extremely bad for you. That
yeah, for sure. Let's see, I want to bring Graham in, but first I want to say thanks for the super chat, Harry. Really appreciate your support, and thanks for being here. Thanks for those who support this blasphemy. There's a red pill cafeteria, but I also want to make a quick announcement. And it'll be the first time I announce it on a podcast. This weekend, I start my new podcast, Gen X Wasteland. And I will be streaming. Eventually, it will be for subs, but I will streaming the first few episodes for everybody, including on Aeon Byte and my private channel. I just thought I needed to create this venture to talk about Elvis, the upcoming Bowie book that I'm working on, culture, more rock music, and so forth. So check it out. My first guest will be Chris Knoll. So we're going to have a good time finding who exactly is Generation X, and you will find many universal lessons regardless of where you are. So check out Gen X Wasteland. I also have a podcast, a Substack I started where I can start writing stuff, on Elvis, on Bowie, on other things that I'm doing, and I hope to see you there, and I hope you can subscribe. So that's my housekeeping for today. Graham, do you have a question for Alyson, as we've gone to so many amazing topics that are somehow, but they're definitely tied together?
Pretty much that she's reinforcing that conclusion, that instinct I've had my whole life, where it's the angels and aliens. It's a coin flip, which one it might be. It's basically two sides of the same coin. Tag.
Oh, okay. Have you ever had an extraterrestrial encounter, Graham, or anything like that?
Oh yeah. No, I've had several. I tend to not make a big deal about it. As I sat there and say, it's I sometimes wonder just what's wrong with my butt, because they just don't like my butt for some reason.
They're like construction workers. They're just whistling at you.
Yeah, they pulled my car out of a snowbank once, but
Really? Wow.
Yeah. When you got a 12-inch blizzard and it's 4 a.m. and you're trying to get back to base, me and my buddy got back to base because all of a sudden Winnebago, used Winnebago showed up, and a bunch of looked like clone dudes came running out and lifted our car back onto the road, and they vanished afterwards. It was definitely a strange encounter.
Wow, that's very cool.
Yeah.
And again, I've had a couple. Go ahead, Alan.
Sorry, go on. No. Go on, Miguel.
No, I've had a couple too that I've shared before. Obviously, Elvis had 3 or 4, and then of course I'm finding out David Bowie had about 3 or 4. Like, he was actually part of some club in London that used to look out for UFOs up in the top of the building with the telescope, and he saw a lot. And obviously, he definitely had his encounter. So it's a busy universe out there, or even as Gordon White often said, think of the universe as a jungle. There's a lot of denizens. Some are hungry, some are hunting, some are benign, some are there to feed us. So it's just a big jungle.
Yeah, it sure is. I'd just like to say that I'm Generation X.
Yeah. All right. Then you should enjoy the podcast. Yes. We should have you back. We can talk about music, because I think even in one of in your book, where is that? You talk, when you're part about precognition, you talk about a friend of the author Malcolm Robinson allegedly having a conversation with John Lennon and Paul McCartney during which he seemingly predicted their future success and even played a portion of Yesterday. That's wild. I always thought Paul McCartney got it through a dream, but
Yeah,
it
but
just came to him.
Malcolm told me this story that he had this dream where he had spoken to the guys, the Beatles, and played them Yesterday, and they were like, wow, that's an amazing song, blah blah blah. And then he found out later that Paul McCartney said he'd learned the words in a dream.
Yeah,
So that is just wow.
You had a premonition of 9/11, didn't you? Wasn't that's in your book? Yeah.
Yes, yeah. I would see planes coming through my window. I lived in a high-rise flat at the time. I would see planes coming through the window, and going into other high-rise flats across the city, and I would just be thinking, why am I thinking that? Stop it. That's a ridiculous thought. You've been really, really negative thoughts. Why are you thinking like that? And it wasn't till like 3 months later that happened. But I'd also had some kind of premonition that something would happen in New York and in Paris. And that was well before that. That was when I was on dialysis. So that was back in 1995. No. Yeah, roughly that.
Mm-hmm.
Roughly 1995, I think it was. And so that's what, 7 years or whatever. But I didn't know what it meant. I didn't know what it meant. I didn't know what was going to happen, but I knew it was going to be something bad, and I didn't want to visit till it happened. And then I had these sort of visions, but I didn't know that they were visions. I just thought they were intruding thoughts, daydreams, whatever. And then that happened, and then the next time it happened, it was a bullet-shaped bomb that I saw coming through the window. And by that time, I had done psychic development, and I tried to tune into it or wait for some kind of message. And I was getting like the image of like some sort of domed city.
Mm-hmm.
And I immediately thought of Rome. And so I put my own thoughts into it. I made that mistake. I've put my own thoughts into it. Oh, I'm seeing domes. Is it Rome? Is the Pope going to be assassinated? Right. That's where, and I was doing all the thinking instead of, if I had just maybe left it, right across from me was two pictures. One was the Eiffel Tower and one was the Sacré-Cœur, which is a domed church in Paris. I might have thought something, but what do you do with information like that? Nothing. What's the point of it? What's the point except to tell you something's going to happen?
Yeah.
But you can't really, or most people don't trust their these sort of things that happen until it happens. They go, I saw that, I dreamt it or whatever.
Yeah, but, it's just part of the human existence. Second sight should be as normal. Like animals can detect tsunamis and earthquakes hours before. They're not going to run. It's the fabric of the universe.
Andra Hearn from Edinburgh. She's written a book on Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, and she used to run the Arthur Conan Doyle Centre in Edinburgh. And she had a precognition about Dunblane, the Dunblane massacre, where the school children were shot. And when she heard it, that devastated her. It absolutely devastated her, because she thought, could I have done something about that? You know, when I saw the news on TV, it was more than just, oh my goodness, that's awful. It was this horror. Could I have prevented that in any way? But who would have believed you?
No, the
And
Cassandra complex.
you didn't even know where these planes might be, what they were going to do. It was limited information.
Right.
You know? But like Helen Duncan, what happened with her when she got information, she was a Scottish medium, and she got information that somebody who was in her audience, I think it would probably have just been a room in her house actually, but there were a few people there, and she said, I'm really sorry to tell you that your son has just died. I was just getting a message from him. Her son was in like the war, and he had just drowned at sea. Nobody was supposed to know about that particular mission. It was top secret. And she was arrested as a spy. And she was incarcerated and tried under the Witchcraft Act.
Really?
She's the last person to have been tried under the Witchcraft Act. And it's since been changed. I think it's now the Fraudulent Medium Act. That was the only thing they could get her on. But they were like, how did you know about that? You know, that nobody would have known that. It was top secret. So what do you do when you get information like that, you know, could potentially be top secret? I certainly don't want to get arrested, but at the same time, if I could prevent something awful from happening, I would. I would.
I agree. I think the key is to make it where it's no longer controversial and study it in the right settings. I mean, people like William James and Sigmund Freud and Mark Twain, very rational humans, believed in telepathy and precognition. They thought it was just a normal part of animal nature. And we know that the Russian and the American governments have used telepathy and precognition and remote viewing in their espionage. So we know, I don't know about in Scotland, Alyson, but here in the United States, when the police has hit a wall, whether it's a serial killer or they can't find a murderer, they will go to a psychic and get good results to close. They won't tell the press this, but they do it. I knew people in the police department. So make it more available, study it. So hopefully in the future, it can be part of saving us from tsunamis and murders. And
absolutely. You know, if we have this ability, why would you try to stop people from using it? If it could help us and if it could help you, you know, but why shut it down? Why laugh at it? You know, utilize it.
Yeah. Agreed. That's what we're doing. What we're doing with our work, our website, our podcasts, our books, so we can show the world that we are more magical and can see through the veils of reality for a better existence, or a truer existence, more authentic existence, who we are, our potential. So But yeah, we are at the end. I have your website on the show notes, but tell the audience, where do you want to send the audience, Alyson?
For my show.
Yeah, or your website. Where do you want to send?
Okay, well, I've got several websites actually. I've got AlysonDunlop.com. It's ALYSON Dunlop.com. I've got Reverend Alyson Dunlop Shanes.com.
That's the one I have.
So, and I also do the ADX Files podcast, which I'm now putting on YouTube, but you'll also get the archives from AlysonDunlop.com or from Mixcloud / Alyson Dunlop. It might be Alyson Dunlop. I can't remember now, but that's where you can go to get all that stuff. And this is my book, which is I wish I could turn my camera around the right way, but this is my book. It's a great cover, isn't it?
Yeah, very nice. Very nice.
He had somebody that did that, and he asked me like, well, what do you like? What and so I gave him a bunch of suggestions, and he came up with that. I was like, I love that. I love it. So the book, because Philip Mantle is not very well just now, he's had to stop Flying Disc Press, which was where it was published. So I've got a bunch of books that'll probably just get given out at conferences or sold at conferences. In the meantime, so you can listen to it though. There's a very nice recording that a young gentleman that again Philip got to read it, and it's on Audible.
Good.
So you can listen to it.
Yeah, I enjoyed it, and again, it was a great read from both the experience and also the knowledge and understanding of these phenomenon and so forth. Yeah, definitely check it out. Check out Alyson's book. Glad you're doing what you're doing, and you also established, I think you mentioned it, the SPI Strange Phenomena Investigations of Scotland.
Yeah, that was the Facebook group. That has now changed to Supernatural Secrets Scotland. Okay. So that's what it's called now. So if you want to join that, then it's Supernatural Secrets Scotland.
And does Scotland have a average, above average, or below average when it comes to UFO apparitions or visitations?
Well, it does have a reputation for the central belt of Scotland being a UFO hotspot. Now, a lot of people think it's solely Bonnybridge, but it's not, and it's not even. We also have these terms like the Falkirk Triangle or the Bonnybridge Triangle, UFO Triangle. It's not in the shape of a triangle either. But you tend to get, like, across the central belt of Scotland, more UFO reports. Yeah. Okay. It's pretty busy.
Exactly. Good to hear. Well, awesome. We are at the end. I see the chat was lively as always, but first let us say goodbye to Graham. Graham, thanks for keeping us company on this adventure.
Oh, as always, it's been my pleasure, Miguel. And I think you nailed exactly why they try to bury these sorts of gifts. Is because if you let people do this, they make very bad sheeple, and they don't get led around by the nose easily.
Bingo. That's simple as that. Yeah. Don't want us to look too far over the rainbow, if you would. Using the same analogy. So awesome. Again, check out Gen X Wasteland this weekend. I'll have more information soon. Please support Aeon Byte. Really appreciate it. I will, for subs, I'll have the mini podcast afterwards, whether you're on Patreon or AB Live. So you'll get even more on Alyson's book. and some insights and details that we might not have covered today, but you will get it. But that's it. Well, Alyson, I really enjoyed talking to you as much as as I really enjoyed talking to you last week when we covered Elvis.
Yes, thank you. I really enjoyed talking to you tonight too, and last week as well. I think, honestly, I think your book is fantastic, and even as an Elvis fan, I had no idea about all that stuff.
Yeah. Well, now it's out to the world. Like I said, these things must come out, whether it's Elvis or mushrooms. It's got to come out.
The truth will out.
Yeah,
the truth will set you free and all that.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, we better end before your cat decides to turn into an incubus or something.
I know. What's he like?
Yeah. Well, awesome. Well, everybody, thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
So Lockman will be joining us, and next week, Mitch Horowitz will be coming to talk about all this paranormal, wonderful stuff from his new book. And then we'll have David Block talking about the Nephilim. So good times coming this spring. And if I don't see you, have a great solstice and a great start to your spring. And we will hopefully talk sooner rather than later. Take care, everybody.